Since the Allies gained the initiative in the war, we've seen a more methodical approach to the war. But this month, method goes out the window, and chaos breaks loose. Greetings, loyal members. This is the Dominion War. Now, last month, the Allies attacked on two fronts and managed to cut off the systems of Beta Z and Marcus. Meanwhile, the Romulan seabirds commenced their stealthy voyage to the Foul Fortress, and this month there is action along all fronts. We'll start from the north and work our way down. So, in the north, the Dominion is driven out of Iadara and Casperia Prime, liberating all Federation territory in that sector. It's been a pretty tenuous front for a while. The Dominion positioning there has not been good. It's made even worse by the fact that they've had to pull a lot of fleets back to guard against the Romulan flank. And not only is that flank engaged by several Federation fleets, but it's also engaged by the Romulan Praetorian fleet, the most elite fleet in the Empire. So it was really just a matter of time before the Allies were going to push through. It's not a very defensible area, and nor have the Dominion really devoted many resources up there because there's very few viable objectives up there. Most of what they want is below the line of the McAllister Nebula, so the northern front has always been a bit of a distraction, and now it's the troops that have been stationed there are paying for it, and they are driven back into Cardassian territory. There's also action on the centre, although not direct action, but the preludes to direct action, with a lot of the Calandra front now being closed up with the encirclement of Beta Z. Two Federation fleets moved to Colondia and Aurelio Prime. This is on the central front, and the plan there is going to be to support the invasion of Cardassia through Chintoka, and at Colondia they're going to be ready to support an attack through the central front, which unlike a lot of the others, is a very narrow front and very heavily defended. It's the old frontier between the Cardassian Union and the Federation. It's where the demilitarized zone used to be. And it is basically boxed in on either side by the McAllister Nebula and the Badlands. And because of that, it makes it very difficult to break through. But because the Federation are having such troubles in Chintoka, they're starting to think actually if they can attack through the central front, that will at least divert resources away from Chintoka and allow movement to return to that front. All the while, another Federation fleet moves to Zartak, and that completes the encirclement of Beta Z, which the Dominion still remain completely committed to holding on to. In fact, they are so committed to holding on to Beta Z that they launch a massive counterattack against the Klingons who are holding the front line at New Gaul. A total of 5 Cardassian fleets just come swinging around the Volterra Nebula and hit the Klingons at New Gaul, and they drive all the way to Beta Z. Now, I mean, you can see this on the map. This doesn't make much strategic or tactical sense. Beta Z is lost, and while they've created a narrow corridor through which they can move some supplies and perhaps execute an evacuation, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for the Dominion to do this. Yet again, we are seeing that the Dominion is placing a lot of value on holding Beta Z, and why, it's not really clear. It's a very exposed position, and now it's going to get even worse, because on the far south of the Calandra front, the Romulans take the Foul Fortress. It's been left completely unsupported. The Dominion didn't expect anyone to come through their lines so quickly, but also it's kind of deemed irrelevant because the Foul Fortress was most useful in getting that initial flanking maneuver in which began this offensive, which is now all coming apart very quickly. But beyond that, it hasn't seen much use, and so it's a very easy victory for the Romulans to besiege and take the station. It's completely undefended. It also is going to have some more knock-on effects, because the Dominion has built infrastructure in this area, and that allowed it to carry out the Calandra offensive. But equally, that route, that trail of infrastructure, leads back to Cardassia. And indeed, that road to Cardassia comes under attack by the Klingons. The Klingon Ice Daggers and Daughters of Death launch a direct attack on the Calandra system and drive out the Cardassian order there. So what that now means is that what was once the Dominion's flanking maneuver to get around the stagnating front lines is now the Allies' flanking maneuver. And that's going to allow them to not only isolate and attack the main sort of southern front on multiple sides, it's also going to open up an opportunity to come around and attack Cardassia from the south, which was not previously on the table. The Allies originally wouldn't have been able to do that because those planets, that area of space, was neutral. But because the Dominion has violated that neutrality, it now goes out the window, basically, because, well, they've already violated its neutrality. It makes no difference if we do. So that's the result of the Dominion ignoring neutrality. In some ways, they've really been hoisted by their own petard. And that brings us really to the end of the month, with the Federation advancing in the north, preparing to advance in the centre, and just absolute rank chaos on the Calandra front. The Dominion leadership is acting in a very erratic way, and this is visible. This is made incarnate on this map, where we see the Cardassians throwing themselves into this assault for reasons I certainly don't understand, and I doubt many of the Cardassians understand it either. And you've really got to start thinking, how willing will the Cardassians be to throw themselves behind these seemingly Dominion objectives, which make no sense to them and, only get more of them killed? How long can that kind of state of affairs continue? We'll find out. See you all next time.